thefrogbitblog.
Hello and welcome to episode 19 of the Frogbitblog Podcast. The Frogbitblog Podcast. This episode's called Nurdle. This week I'm going to Nurdle. And if you don't know what Nurdle means, look it up. No, Nurdle actually means to wax lyrical on something you know nothing about. So basically I'm going to nurdle about drugs again. And well, basically I'll be nurdling about lots of things. So let's get ready to nurdle.
The Frogbitblog.
Corrections and apologies. Well, it seems like I offended lots of people last week, but it turns out they were all animal abusers or Tories. So as they say, fuck them. No, seriously though, I must apologise to God Christians for suggesting that little baby Jesus may have in fact been hallucinating on frankincense and myrrh, and that caused him to think he was the Son of God. How silly of me to even suggest that. I'm really sorry. Of course, a long-haired hippie bloke from a Middle Eastern death cult was God's only son, wasn't he? Though, to be honest, if God's been around forever, as you lot are claiming, how come he's only got one kid born 2,000 years ago, yeah? I mean, if God's that popular, and, you know, you're saying he is, and let's face it, there are lots of people that are claiming that they've got God inside them. Well, if that's the case, wouldn't you think there'd been one or two more little sprogs popping out there, wouldn't you? I'm just saying, I'm just putting it out there. Sorry, that didn't really turn out to be much of an apology after all, did it? And again, apologies to farmers. It looks like I upset a lot of farmers last time with my very generalised stereotypes. But that's the whole point of stereotypes. It wouldn't be stereotypes if you weren't generalising about people, would they? Anyway, you know, I've been talking about the reintroduction of wolves, and in my blog I talked about the reintroduction of beavers, and no one has a problem with it apart from farmers, or should I say the NFU. You know, the most reactionary union ever, apart from the Northern Irish Unionists. You know, they're all reactionary, aren't they? Oh, we don't want beavers. We don't want beavers. In fact, where they introduced the beavers, one willow tree had two branches chewed off it. And guess what? The landowner demanded compensation because it was chewed off by a beaver. Fucking money-grabbing twats, aren't they? That is what it's all about, isn't it? I mean, I know we're always talking about dole cheats. The fucking landed gentry are the biggest dole cheats out, aren't they, with their, inverted commas, set aside. Oh yeah, set aside for you to sit on your fat, lazy arses because you've got some land that your ancestors stole off us. Give it back, you sponging fuckers. Sorry, again, that's not a very good apology, is it?
The Frogbitblog.
So what else has been happening? Well, I've noticed I put more and more sound effects, and I've been sometimes I look on YouTube for these sound effects, and you know, I've been doing cow mooing and things like that, and you type it in, and last week I wanted a wolf howl. So I went on YouTube and, you know, put it in the search bar, wolf howl, and I was offered 10 hours of howling wolf howling. The same thing, 10 hours of wolf howling, and it happened the other week when I did it for cow, 10 hours of cow mooing. And I was also just searching, and there was 10 hours of the Spanish Flea. You know that song? Well, you can get 10 hours of it, and it seems like YouTube is full of these 10 hours of repeated things. What? I know I'm sounding a bit old here, but what the hell is that about? Please tell me, somebody. So yes, and more in the Aren't Animals Brilliant series. Orca whales, apparently. Orca whales have been saying a few words lately. A killer whale named Wiki came from Billericay, and he's doing very well. No, it was a killer whale named Wiki has been taught to say hello, goodbye. Though I'm not sure if she knew all the lyrics. She got as far as you say yes, I say no, you say why, I say my hole's gonna blow. No, actually, it is claimed that the whale can say hello and goodbye. But I've heard, actually, that she's got two main phrases, this killer whale. One is, get me out of this pool and let me fucking go home, you twats. And the second phrase is, I hate Japanese. You know that I hate Japanese. I really think so. Just to be clear, that is not a racial slur on Japanese people, just those who think it's still okay to kill any whales. All right? And some other news, communities are being offered £1 million to have a nuclear dump built in their back gardens. Yep, communities in the UK are being offered £1 million to take nuclear dump. Actually, I could insert a scatological joke there, couldn't I? But I'm going to give it a miss this week. I did the dog poo joke last week, and several followers of Freud have noted that maybe I wasn't potty trained properly. Okay, so I'm going to avoid the scatological references this week. So, nuclear dump, okay. Communities in the UK are being offered to take £1 million to take a nuclear dump. It sounds like a bribe to me. And, you know, communities are being allowed to vote on this. And how can one generation of communities vote for something that's going to last thousands and hundreds of thousands of years? Most of residents that live there will be gone in 40 years at the most. What about the hundreds of generations come afterwards that will have to live with the consequences of whatever this one generation votes for, this one bribe? It's mad, isn't it? And I thought there wasn't a problem with nuclear waste. If it's that fucking safe, why don't you bury it under Buckingham Palace or the Houses of Parliament? Yeah, you've got problems with the Houses of Parliament because it's too cold and falling apart. Well, that'll warm it up a bit, won't it? And I've also read this week about Dutch electric barges. I've seen a picture of them and it looks like a big stapler. Their electric motors will be driven by 20-foot batteries charged on shore by the carbon-free energy provider Eneco. I've gone from Dutch to Irish there. My Dutch isn't very good, sorry, anyway. They will travel inland, taking goods around Holland and Belgian waterways. It will remove 23,000 lorries from the road. The company believes it could produce about 500 barges a year to revolutionise the freight industry. It will take 23,000 lorries off the road. They're actually going to, these barges are going to go around inland waterways, and provide alternative to lorries. They're great, the Dutchies, aren't they? Remember, I've talked in the past about their attitude to cycling. And then a while back, I talked about how they were innovative Dutch farming methods. How the farming methods were revolutionising farming in a generally eco-friendly way. And about how they're one of the largest exporters of food in the world. Well, I was just thinking then, if these boats get to carry around the Dutch vegetables, will they then be known as onion barges? So here's a good news eco story. Divers in Tasmania have discovered a new population of red handfish. Doubling the known population of the elusive and extremely rare fish are raising hopes that more may be found. Until last week, the remaining population of red handfish, Thymictilus politus, I keep forgetting to read these before. Thymictilus politus, spat all over the microphone there. Thymictilus politus was believed to be confined to one 50-metre long reef in Frederick Henry Bay near Hobart in southeast Tasmania. A recent survey at the site found 8 individual fish at that site, prompting scientists to estimate the reef housed 20 to 40 handfish. And a captive breeding program for the spotted handfish began in September, and the fish was made mascot of the Dark Mofo Festival. The Dark Mofo Festival? What the fuck is that? Who am I to ask? Well, actually, I looked it up, and it's the Winter Solstice Festival in Tasmania. And it seems quite a cool hippie gathering with a nude swim. This year, participants plunged into the water to the sound of drums and cymbals played by the Holy Tantra esoteric Buddhism community of Tasmania to celebrate the return of the light after the longest night. Good on you. And actually Google red handfish. They're really cool. They are fish and they've got red hands, like with 5 fingers. Have a look. They're really good. They're really cool. Aren't red handfish brilliant?
The Frog Bit Blog.
And now some football news. I have been talking about Wolves a lot recently, so I thought I'd go on to talk about Forest Green Rovers. Okay, I don't know if you've heard of these. Forest Green Rovers are we think it's the world's first vegan football club, okay? They were bought by eco-warrior millionaire, I can't remember his name, I should have looked that up, but I'm going to crack on anyway. He made his money from eco-electricity, and so he does what all millionaires do, he buys himself a club. What he did, he makes sure everything cooked at or on sale at the club is vegan. Yeah, they play at a ground called New Lawn. Well, I hope he doesn't put chemicals on his new lawn, because I'll be having a go at him. Anyway, this club, everything they sell at the ground, all the hospitality, is all vegan. And fair fucks, some of the other teams that they play away have been following suit for that one game. I know Carlisle did it a while back, and Morecambe have just done it this weekend. They put on vegan food for the hospitality, which is really good because it's sort of, getting the message around. And this is what the matchday hospitality menu is. For starters, you get Mediterranean vegetable kebabs with salad and spicy tomato sauce. For the main course, you've got veggie spicy bean pie served with chips and mushy peas. And for dessert, you've got vegan chocolate brownie served with vegan ice cream. How great is that? So fair fucks to Morecambe for at least trying it for the day, yeah? Because it gives people that haven't tried vegan food or wouldn't even contemplate vegan food, it gives them the chance to try it. And this is the way that you can change people's attitude slowly, making people realise that vegan food isn't all mushy lentils and shit. I mean, just 95% is the mushy lentils and shit, but the other 5% is brilliant. I'm joking there, of course. And of course, there was always some people, as there is, complaining, I want the choice to eat animals at the match. It's not fair. Trying to foist this vegan shit on us. It's not fair. Look, for 3 hours out of 1 day of the whole of your fucking life, can you not avoid sticking a dead animal in your face? 3 hours, 1 day. Really? But I want. Anyway, there were some positive comments on Facebook. One person said, the food at Forest Green Rovers is head and shoulders above anything I have ever ate before at a football match. And in the past, in a pie, you probably actually did eat some head and shoulders of some animal. So Forest Green Rovers, yay, fair fucks.
The thefrogbitblog.
And now some more nature news. The microscopic eggs of an endangered butterfly have been found in Scotland. Eggs laid by white-letter hairstreak. White-letter hairstreak, what a funny name for a butterfly. Eggs laid by white-letter hairstreak found on elm trees in Berwickshire, suggesting that the insect has returned to breed in the country for the first time in more than 130 years. Don't tell the Scots it's breed, otherwise they'll cover it with lard and try and deep fry it. Oh, I'm going to have to apologise to the Scots next week, aren't I? Now, we've been getting some good results recently, haven't we? Big game hunter shot dead. Why am I doing it in Scottish? Is Croatian. How do Croatians sound? A bit like Russian. Big game hunter shot dead as he aimed No, I'm doing Scottish again anyway. A big game hunter has been shot dead as he aimed at a lion he wanted to kill. Hello Jelinek was hit by a stray bullet while hunting big cats bred in captivity. So they're in captivity and he went to shoot them. Yep. He was struck by a stray bullet as he tracked one of the creatures near Set Lagoli in the northwest province of South Africa. For the past year, he has leased his hotel to dedicate himself to the things he planned to accomplish and enjoy a deserved retirement. This is what it says. He unfortunately received the ugliest end. He died in South Africa doing what he loved. His office, a hunting hall, was full of trophies, deer and bear specimens, and everything that could be hunted in Croatia and Europe. And is it deserved retirement? Fuck him. I was hoping actually we could send a big party over there and have our picture taken with his dead body, and we'll all sit around it and we'll lift his head and smile for the camera with big smiles on our faces, you know, like the pictures you've got, you twat, of the animals you shoot. I don't know if you noticed in that one, I actually said deer and beer. That sounds like a good night out, but obviously I meant deer and bears. He's got heads of deers and bears. Well, he did have. He's dead now, isn't he? And wait, there's more good news. A gruesome story has emerged from South Africa after a suspected poacher was killed and eaten by lions close to the Kruger National Park over the weekend. The man's remains were... I'll stop that accent, that's rubbish. The man's remains were found at a private game reserve near Hoedspruit in the northern province of Limpopo on Saturday, where animals are regularly poached as opposed to fried or boiled. No, I'm not going to make a joke there. A loaded hunting rifle was discovered near the body, which had been devoured by the wild animals. Only his head was left relatively untouched. It seems the victim was poaching in the game park when he was attacked and killed by lions. They ate his body, nearly all of it, and just left his head and some remains, Limpopo police spokesman Mwachi Nguepi told AFP. I hope the lions were actually playing football with his head. That would have been funny, wouldn't it? They could have had a game, lions against wolves, and played football with his head. Yay! More news of hunters dying.
A 54-year-old rider with the Fernie Hunt has died after falling from his horse while out riding in Saddington near Fleckney. The Leicester Mercury reports the incident happened in fields off Moseley Road in the village yesterday afternoon. Emergency services were called to the scene at around 2:15 p.m. The rider died at the scene and a file on his death is being prepared for the coroner. A statement issued on behalf of the Fernie Hunt, whose kennels are based in Great Bowden near Market Harbour, said it is with great sadness that we can confirm that a gentleman died following a fall from his horse in a tragic accident whilst following the Fernie Hounds on Wednesday the 31st of January. Our sincere condolences are with his family and friends at such a difficult time, and we ask that everyone respects their privacy as they overcome such a devastating and early loss.
Says the family of all the foxes he's killed. Oh dear, what a shame, never mind. Well, after my report last week, I don't know if you remember it, I was highlighting the relative dangers of taking ecstasy versus either horse riding or skiing. These were just the statistics. It was statistically more dangerous to send your kids horse riding or go horse riding or do skiing. It actually does look like that fella should have stayed at home and taken drugs. Imagine the warning advert.
Dad, please don't go.
It's okay, son. A man's gotta do what a man's gotta do. I gotta get on my horse and chase around defenseless animals for a laugh.
But Dad, it's dangerous. Can you not stay here and me and you will drop ecstasy? It's far safer.
Sorry, son. I got some foxes to kill.
Oh my God, he's dead.
If only he had listened to his son, maybe he'd still be alive. If only he'd chosen ecstasy instead of fox hunting. Be safe, take drugs, don't ride horses.
thefrogbitblog.
So, there's been another school shooting by a deranged white man with heavy weaponry. Surprise, surprise. Build a wall, nasty terrorists. Stop them Muslims coming in. Stop them Muslims, it's all the Muslims. But arm our kids with 45 rounds a minute. This young lad was a right-winger. He belonged to an extreme right-wing organisation again and again. These right-wingers are doing all the killings in America, but obviously they feel safe and empowered to do it because they've got one of their own kind in charge, haven't they? Despite this litany and despite being too young to buy beer, Cruz was able legally to purchase an AR-15 about a year ago, according to law enforcement officials. Federal law in the US allows anyone over 18 to buy a rifle, giving limited background checks. And guess what? Republican senators like Ted Cruz receive hundreds of thousands of dollars from the National Rifle Association to stop gun control. Now, interestingly, just as this has happened, I was reading about gun ownership has gone down under Trump. It spiked heavily under Obama. So interestingly, a black man gets in power and a load of white folk buy a load of guns. I wonder if they also went and bought lynching rope as well. Less people are actually buying guns. Young people aren't as arsed. It's the same weird nutters buying loads of them. Sociopathically insecure, scared people feel the need to own lots of guns. Listen to this. The US has the highest rate of gun ownership in the world, with 88 guns for every 100 people. But just 3% of the population own an average of 17 guns each, with a estimated 7.7 million super owners in possession of between 8 and 140 guns apiece. What the fuck are you doing with over 100 guns each, you weirdos? That's serious mental health issues. I mean, Trump's going on about this shooting being a mental health issue. Well, firstly, anyone wanting 8 guns or more is a serious mental health issue. And secondly, Mr. Trumpy Pumpy, the rest of the world, every country has mental health issues. Every nation has mental health issues. And can you spot the difference? We don't let everyone have access to heavy weaponry, yeah? You know what the answer will be, though, to this school shooting? Yep, compulsory armed teachers. Yeah, that's what we need. We need to give the teachers guns, don't we? I can't ever see that going wrong. But having said that, as a teacher, I quite like that idea. In fact, I might get one. I might get the whole hog and get 100, yeah? And after all, 7 million Americans can't be wrong, can they? While we're on the subject of America, Scott Pruitt of the Environmental Protection Agency, is saying that global warming might be a good thing because then we will be able to live in cold places. He's not thought this one through, has he? Huge swathes of the planet will become uninhabitable because of heat and higher oceans. But don't worry, we'll all go and live in the South fucking Pole, won't we, Scott? But hang on, last week Trump was saying global warming wasn't happening. And now Scott Pruitt's saying, well, it is happening, but that's okay because we might get some nice weather. Great. Fucking sort yourselves out, you twats.
The Frog.Bit.blog.
Yes, and once again, it's time for Frogbit on Drugs. I did some research a few weeks back about animals on drugs, and it's just led me to a whole load of research. And I just want to say, at this point, I am not advocating taking drugs. I don't think anyone should take drugs. They're bad for you, okay? I just find it very interesting, okay? So I'd been looking at research on animal drugs and then human drugs. And last week I mentioned about frankincense and myrrh. And I must admit I did a provocative sketch about Jesus. Well, I found some other stuff, funnily enough. Apparently the Egyptians were off their tits on a thing called blue lily. No wonder they all walked like an Egyptian, yeah? Images of the blue lily appear all over iconography and artifacts from ancient Egypt. And at first it was believed that these were just sort of symbolic images. But hundreds of them were found in the graves of the ancient. And I think Tutankhamun, he had 60 images of blue lily on it as well. And this led me to YouTube, and there's an old series on there. And it was obviously copied from video because it looks a bit, you know, how it does when it's recorded from video. And the series is called Sacred Weeds. And it was posted by Moon Spirit Warrior. If you're listening, mate, keep off the drugs, Moon Spirit Warrior. Anyway, what they did in these series called Sacred Weeds, they got all these professors got together in a big house and give all these ancient drugs to volunteers to see what effects they had on them, all in the name of science, obviously. Well, they did this with the blue lily. They were actually hard to find as they hardly exist in the wild anymore, but they managed to get some from some botanical gardens, and they gave them to a man and woman volunteer and observed what would happen. And yes, they got off their tits for a couple of hours. But they were being asked loads of questions, how are you feeling and what are you thinking about, which must have been a bit annoying because this couple obviously just wanted to stare at the flowers for a few hours. Anyway, the ancient Egyptians were at it, but not as bad as the Mexicans. The Mexicans were the worst. Andale, andale. Psilocybe cubensis. These mushrooms were used by the local priests and priestesses and given to people to cure all sorts of illnesses and maladies, but usually done in a ceremonial manner. And there's still remnants of this old culture in Mexico, but it's mainly gone. I mean, the fucking Aztecs were at it all the time. Apparently there's evidence of kings and queens at it. Yeah, imagine all the kings and queens and top Aztecs doing mushrooms, yeah? Which is probably why that Spanish bloke Cortez managed to take over a huge empire with a few soldiers, because he entered the city of Montezuma. No, whatever it is, he entered the city November the 8th, 1519. Montezuma, who was the king, believing to be incarnate of the Aztec god Quetzalcoatl, that sounds a bit Geordie, that anyway, received him with great honour. Cortez soon decided to seize Montezuma in order to hold the country. Yep, so he basically, the Aztecs were too busy in partying on Mexican magic mushrooms, so that's how it was lost. Mexico was lost to the Spanish. They were all off their faces. Now, I was thinking how great it would be if we made our royal family do it. And, you know, again, I've got another great money-making idea to get rid of to cure world hunger. Last episode, I talked about pay-per-view was the three Trumps versus three Sharks matchup. Well, this time it's the Royal Rumble. Queen Elizabeth, come on down. Racist old Philip, come on down. Charlie, the weird one, come on down and bring your horse with you. And yes, I do mean Camilla. Tonight's Royal Rumble in the cage. The royal family do mushrooms. Can you imagine forcing them to eat some magic mushrooms, stick them in one of them fighting cages and do pay-per-view? And we could do this once a year, not just for charity, but to pay for their own upkeep instead of expecting the rest of us to fund their lifestyles. Because after all, they're really poor and can't afford to do it themselves, can they? You know, the Queen, the richest woman in the UK, needs hard-earned taxpayers' cash to pay for all the servants. Well, get them on TV. I would definitely pay-per-view to see them all in a cage on mushrooms. So anyway, the mushrooms, the Mexicans were at it big time, and the other ones were the Siberians. You know, Siberia, massive country. Yeah, they used to take fly agaric. You know, the toadstools, the red ones with white spots. Not all of them, obviously. It depended on the region. But yes, they took them for centuries recreationally, and apparently, if they needed to do tasks that required a lot of stamina, they used to take mushrooms to help them do things. You know, like carrying things a long way, which is odd, really, because I used to know some hippies back in the day who took them, and all they could manage was to fall about laughing. I can never imagine 6 of them trying to carry a boat on their shoulders or whatever you need to do in Siberia. Anyway, it turns out that poor people couldn't afford to take them, and they weren't always freely available, so they used to wait outside the places where people were taking them with empty bowls and catch the wee as they were having a wee and drink it to get high. And the book I was reading also said that certain tribes used to nominate someone to take them all, yeah? Because remember I said last week, fly agaric includes lots of toxins that can be removed by having a wee. Yeah, and a lot of the active ingredients stay in the wee. So anyway, villages and tribes would have a special person that would take a shitload of mushrooms and then wee them out, and the rest of the tribe would get a bit of wee each, drink it and get off their faces. I mean, how very strange. Imagine that being your job. What do you do for a living? Oh, I take loads of fly agaric mushrooms, wee them out, and then I just sit there and fall asleep and everyone else has a party. How very odd.
The Frog Bit Blog.
And talking of drugs, this is a bit more serious, this. I follow Dignity in Dying on Twitter. I don't know if you know them. They're the organisation that campaigns for changes in the law on assisted death. And I completely agree with them because I believe people with terminal painful illnesses deserve the right to choose when to die to avoid a slow, painful death. And there's this bloke called Noel Conway who is dying of motor neurons disease, which is an incurable disease with a painful, lingering death. And he took his case to the High Court to get the law changed so that at the time of his choosing, he can either take his own life or have an assistance without the person who helps him go into jail. But the High Court rejected this, but he does have an appeal coming up. And look, I know the counter-argument of all this is that old people or severely disabled people may feel under pressure not to be a burden. But look, if we set up courts to look at each case and had trained doctors, 2 trained doctors, whatever, to look at each case, you'd interview the family, you'd interview the sufferer, and that would be a fail-safe, yep. It's not just a question of letting Granny get to 90 thinking I'm a burden, right, kill me. Now that would be daft, and that's not what it's about. I mean, we do it with animals, don't we? We put animals down when they're dying, you know what I mean? It's to stop the painful death, but we don't do it with humans, and it's weird how we don't let humans make their own choices in terminal cases, but instead we put them through a slow, agonising death. And that's inhumane. Well, when I say we don't have assisted death, you don't unless you're royalty, of course, and this is a true story.
January the 20th, 1936, as King George V lay on his deathbed.
Mom, we want the King's death to be announced for the morning papers, not those ghastly common evening ones. Is it okay if we go ahead?
Certainly, Lord Dawson. There is 1 whole gram of cocaine injected first.
Yes, Mom.
Go ahead. Okay, now you can inject the gram of morphine to send him on his way.
Okay, Mom. Injecting it now.
Jesus fucking Christ! I'm coming to meet you, Lord! Wow, I'm off my tits, Lord! Wow, this is amazing! Oh, wow, Lord, I'm coming!
The king is dead. Announce it to the newspaper that he died peacefully in his sleep.
Do we say he was sent on his way off his tits on cocaine and morphine, Mom?
No, I think we better leave that out. It'll be our little secret, won't it, Lord Dawson?
Yes, Mom. I won't tell a soul, though I may leave it in my memoirs for someone else to find out. So yes, King George V died off his tits on cocaine and morphine to ease the pain of death. Though obviously we can't let the common folk do that, can we? They must suffer to the end. The end. Now, that's what I thought happened, and I think that might have happened. But in the interest of honesty and proper journalism, there is an alternative story. Because when I researched it, this is what one article said.
The haze of fiction around George V's death extended to his purported last words, on being told that he would soon be well enough to recuperate at Bognor Regis. Bugger Bognor. This jovial and somewhat endearing exchange did not actually take place. In fact, George's conscious last words, delivered to a nurse who was administering an injection, were, "God damn you." Perhaps George, who was never consulted about the manner of his own passing, had some suspicion about how his treatment would conclude.
Yeah, so murder. So he might not have wanted it after all. So maybe I'll have to take back what I said. Sorry, George. So that'll do for another episode. I think I've just about insulted everybody there is to insult. Sorry if you feel insulted, but if you're insulted, don't bother listening, okay? The rest of you, I hope you've enjoyed it. You can get this on YouTube and you can get this on whatever, you know the score. And I'll see you soon. Bye!
From Bit Blog.